All right, hey, Vikings fans, welcome in to another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer and talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, we do. And on episode 63 tonight, we recap that disappointing loss against the Lions, as well as my experience in the stadium during that game.
Yeah, wish I could have been there with you, but definitely some roses and some thorns to talk about with that game. And we've continued our tradition of handing out some game balls for offense, defense, and special teams as well.
Yep, and then we look ahead to the Thursday night football game in a couple of days against the Rams, which will be live streaming on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah, so make sure you check us out there. And oh yeah, we did spin the wheel of purple punishments.
Yep, so grab a cold one and join us.
Skol.
All right, we just wanted to say thank you to our presenting sponsor, Big Top Ventures. Thanks, Big Top Ventures. If you are interested at all in taking an all-inclusive trip to Jamaica or Cancun or anywhere like that, go ahead and send an email. We'll put it on the screen. It's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Send them an email saying you're interested in going, for how long you want to be there, and they'll give you all the information. They're really good people, really easy to work with. And again, bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Thanks, Big Top Ventures.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All right, man. We got to start this off with the purple punishments.
We do. We
have to. We were wrong. Yep.
I do want to preface this, okay? Yes, our preseason picks, which is all that matters for the purple punishment. You know, that was a lot of P words there. Yes, we both predicted a Vikings win over the Lions in week 7? That's what this was.
Yep.
So that's official. We're wrong on that. We got to spin the wheel of purple punishments. But I will say, just a week ago, I predicted the Vikings would lose in my final, last second prediction. And I said the Vikings would let the Lions score 31 points. I also said the Vikings would only score 17, so I was wrong there. But I did pick the Vikings to lose last week, not on the purple punishments, but I do have to toot my own horn a little bit just to feel that much better about the loss.
You did. One thing I'd like to point out about your prediction was you had the Lions winning by a lot.
I did.
Correct me if I'm wrong, 31-17 was your final score?
That was my score. You can check out TikTok to see my score. Please, if you're a Vikings fan, go check out our TikTok video, because there's a lot of mean Lions fans out there that apparently don't know how to be good winners, because they're pretty awful in the comments there.
Well, it's going to take them, 40 years to catch up to the Vikings in wins in the division? So.
I think it's 20. If they beat the Vikings, if they go undefeated against the Vikings for the next 20 years, then they'll finally be tied on the series record. But we don't need to be those fans.
We digress. Let's spin the wheel. Let's see what our punishment for today is for picking wrong. And we'll go from there.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this. Purple punishments. Let's go. Skol.
Skol.
Oh, man. What's it going to be? It's going to be drink beer through a silly straw. All right. That's not bad at all. I like that one. That's a fun one.
We can deal with that. All right. You want to find those down here? They're right behind you, actually.
We have the purple pantry below us here.
The purple pantry.
We're very creative with naming things.
So while you're getting those out, I'll introduce the beer that we have the privilege of drinking through the silly straw. Tonight we're going to be drinking Single Speed Brewing's Hold My Pretzel Festbier, which I've never had this before. Single Speed is located in Waterloo, Iowa, which is home to, neighbor to our college hometown, Cedar Falls.
Yeah.
And so we grew up with Single Speed. Single Speed started while we were in college, and it's been fun to try different beers that they have, but I've never had this one, so I'm excited for it. Should be good. And
you got a nice little variety pack of silly straws. There are a few colors to choose from. I went with purple, obviously. So
wise choice.
I've had this fest beer for the first time, which I think this is just essentially an Oktoberfest. I had it for the first time a week and a half ago almost, and it's really good.
Yeah. Let's pour these up. Let's see what they look like. Yeah, they're full cans. If I remember correctly, that's a single speed thing. They fill their cans up. I've got a paper towel if you need it. Whoa.
We'll,
look at that pour.
Oh, my goodness.
Look at that pour.
Holy cow. That's an Austin pour if I've ever seen one right there. I'm just going to do the evaporation method here. Oh, no, never mind. I'll use the paper towel. Man, Evan, that pour is glorious. I love it so much.
It's really golden. It kind of looks like a Bud Light, kind of like your standard domestic whatever.
Yeah. I think you're going to be impressed with this one. I like it a lot. It's a lighter flavor, Oktoberfest. But it's really good. And I don't know if it's the title in it, but I kind of get like a nice, almost savory vibe to it, almost salty vibe to it. So
nice.
Well, I'm looking forward to 5 minutes from now when our beers die down a little bit.
We can read the description on the can here. Hold My Pretzel is golden in color and pleasantly sweet. Our German-inspired celebratory lager features distinct notes of honey alongside subtle hints of floral and spice. So good, you might need one in each hand, which means someone will have to wait for it. Hold your pretzel.
That's funny. I like it.
Single
speed. You did good with the description there.
5.9%. Holds its own. This is very sudsy.
Yeah, this is it's gonna be a second.
It's like when you put dish soap in the laundry machine.
I promise I didn't shake these up before I walked in here.
Make sure you put your straw in there.
Yeah, we do have to drink through silly straws. Wasn't it something that went around when we were in college that apparently if you drink through straws, you feel the effects faster? Is that an old wives' tale?
Guess we'll find out. I think you have fewer cavities because it bypasses your teeth.
I mean, if you're getting cavities from beer, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. All right, grief, these beers are taking forever to fill up.
Yeah. We might have to speed up this portion of the video.
Maybe. Do.
All right, get that silly straw in there, and then we got to Skol these up.
That is the nice thing about this one being so foamy is the silly straw doesn't care. So, joke's on you, Purple Punishments. You're actually helping us out. All right, here we go. Skol.
Skol.
Oh, man. The straw hit me in the back of the throat.
Yeah, that's a good beer.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm fighting to get as much as I can because that straw, it's got a light flow here.
It is a punishment for sure.
We'll get the strategy down. Maybe the next beer I'll open minutes before I want to pour it. Beer's really good. It's a nice light flavor. I'm getting that. Maybe once you read the can, it mentioned the spicy notes. Maybe that's what I'm getting. The spices, what I thought was the salt from the pretzel. I like it a lot. I would gladly have many more of these.
It's a good bonfire beer. I could have a few of these on a cool autumn night, hanging out with friends. It's a good one.
Yep. Hold My Pretzel. And man, I didn't think about how that sounded, but yeah, I like it. It's a good beer. Thank you, Single Speed, for making such a great beer. I don't think it's year round. I think it's one of those specialty ones in the fall. I have seen it before this year, but I think I have. But it's one that if it's not year round, I'll be looking forward to it every year. So get you some of this Hold My Pretzel from Single Speed before it runs out, if it runs out. If not, try some of their other ones. They're really good.
I'm gonna have to get more after this episode so I can enjoy it not through a silly straw.
You know what? I'm doing this forever now. The silly straw, that's my new thing. I'm gonna be the guy that drinks beer out of a silly straw. So joke's on you, Purple Punishments.
I have a feeling that's not gonna last very long.
No, it probably won't. I'm probably gonna forget at some point and try to drink out of the glass this episode.
All right, well, we've got a game to talk about, and we've got a game to look ahead to, and I don't know how much we want to talk about this game. It was kind of a tough game to watch, but it is our job.
Yeah, it is. It's our hobby at this point. Big Top Ventures is paying us to do this, but it's still a hobby. So until it's our job, we can kind of do whatever we want with this. It was a fun game. I think overall, if you were just a fan of football and didn't have, the love of the Vikings that we do, you would come away from that game very entertained.
You were there. You were in the flesh.
I was. It was my kid's first time going to a Vikings game. It was unfortunately my first time attending US Bank Stadium during a Vikings loss, which kind of stinks. That was a point of pride for me. I had an undefeated record. I'm talking 4 or 5 games I've been to US Bank Stadium for a Vikings game. So it's not like it's this crazy streak, but it was still kind of fun to say, like, I've never seen them lose. But yeah, first loss that I've seen them do. It was pretty bleak at halftime. What was it? 21-10 at halftime.
21-10, yeah.
Yeah, the stadium, the energy wasn't quite there. There were a few times they tried to initiate like a Skol chant on the video board, and it kind of went, but not. You look awesome drinking a beer out of a
I feel
straw.
so dumb.
But yeah, the energy just kind of wasn't there. The biggest boost of energy the whole day was the Ivan Pace scoop and score.
Yes.
The stadium went nuts. Probably little girl screamed with how much I was yelling for the Vikings. My kids were up and jumping around. It was awesome. Close second was the JJ diving or falling touchdown catch. That was really nice. Sorry, Justin Jefferson.
He's still JJ for now. I mean, JJ McCarthy was in the building.
He was
That's
for the
cool.
first time this year, I think, at a game. Which when I mentioned that to my wife, she was like, "Why hasn't he been there every game?" And I was kind of like, "I don't really know. I mean, he's not going to go to the away games. He's not going to travel. He's not playing, so he's not going to travel, and then he's not going to go to London. I wouldn't assume he was at London, but yeah, I don't know. I think it took Kirk last year a while before he started attending games on the sideline. I don't know."
Anyways, it was a really good game. It started off strong for the Vikings, and then they kind of petered out, and then they came back, and they made it a really close game. It was, I thought they could have pulled it off. It was frustrating to see the clock management down the stretch. It seemed like timeout management and clock management were not strong on the Vikings side.
In the first half, I would say the second half they did okay.
They did
with
better.
The timeouts, but still, I mean, obviously I think it was more of a defensive fall in that final drive that the Lions kicked the game-winning field goal. But yeah, the end of the first half, or really just all the first half timeout-wise, I didn't really know what was going on. In the stadium, you don't get all the context of the announcers and hearing from the sideline and everything. But yeah, I don't know. Did they say anything on TV why those timeouts were happening?
No, there was one of the timeouts, one of the early ones, the earliest, where it just looked like Kevin O'Connell saw something in the defense that maybe he thought Sam Darnold didn't see, and so he called the timeout just to regroup and maybe get a different play call into Sam. I don't know. But there were a few moments where they caught Brian Flores on the sideline on camera, and he looked angry. And I don't know why. I mean, he's always pretty like even keeled. Like he doesn't necessarily like explode in rage unless something really good has happened. He's usually pretty level-headed. But he just, I don't know. He had a scowl on his face towards the end of the first half, and I had to wonder if it was because his head coach didn't leave him with any timeouts there at the end to do anything with. And not that you typically take a lot of timeouts on defense, but they are helpful when you're trying to make a stop. You're trying to get maybe a break for your guys when they've been on the field for a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Flores specifically, his worst Vikings games as a Vikings defensive coordinator have really been against the Lions. I think we can both agree, obviously we're not blind. The Lions are a good team. This was a hard-fought win for the Lions, and they, for a lot of the game, looked like the better team. They had penalties, but the Vikings also had penalties. The Vikings had one turnover. The Lions had one turnover, which kills the super fun stat about KOC being undefeated when he ties or wins the turnover battle. Now it's just he's undefeated when he wins the turnover battle, which obviously...
It was that stat, and then it was when the Vikings score first.
Oh, yeah.
They're like more likely to win by a lot, and I forget what the stat is, but both of those things happened. They scored first. In fact, the Vikings doubled up on scoring first. They were up 10-0, and they broke even in the turnover margin. By all intents and purposes, if those were the only two stat lines we had to look at and we just didn't know how the rest of the game went, I would have said, oh, the Vikings win 100% of the time, because those are the signatures of Vikings wins. They score first and they break even in the turnover battle. Those things happened and they lost. It was a 1-point loss.
Yeah, I will tell you, when it was 10-0 early in the game, that maybe I misspoke earlier about the energy in the building when it was the highest, but
I bet that was pretty fun.
Yeah, the energy in that building was up there. So much so that I think it was as Aaron Jones, who played and looked well even though he's still not 100%, as Aaron Jones was running for that long touchdown early in the game to score the first 6 points, my wife had taken one of my kids down to the bathroom. It was me and the other two kids, and a group kind of walked up to us and said, "Hey, you're in our seats." And I don't know, I was an idiot. I had one beer the whole game. So this is before I had one beer. I immediately was like, no, we're not. We're in our seats. Like, I looked at my seats. I know where I needed to go. I'm in my seats. Like, sorry, but you've got the wrong seats. And they were like, I'm sorry, but no. And the one lady that talked to me, she couldn't have been nicer, but she was still holding her ground. She pulled up her seat. She was like, this is the section. This is a seat. And I was like, hold on, let me look up mine. And I pulled it up and I was like, see, we're in the wrong section. We were supposed to be one section over, and immediately I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. And as I was saying that, Aaron Jones scored a touchdown. She was like, no, it's okay. We'll sit behind. I was like, no, we got to move because I got more people than you have. And but after that, once we got moved and got all situated, then soon after the field goal happened, it was 10-0. The stadium was feeling good, and I was less embarrassed about holding my ground about being wrong about my seats. But yeah, then after that, the Vikings hit their, inevitable every game lull on offense and couldn't do anything. And then the Lions, who seem to have, what's his name? Ben Johnson, is he the Lions offensive coordinator?
Yep.
He's got Brian Flores figured out, and good to him. Hats off to him. He'll be a head coach soon, hopefully. Get out of Detroit, because he's got the Vikings number and it's working for him. But
yeah, the field goal, really quick. That first field goal, what was that, like 58 yards or something like that?
Well,
it was really long.
I think,
I'm gonna look
I don't know what the first one was, but Reichert had a 57-yarder and a 50. No, I think his longest yesterday was a 57-yarder, because earlier in the season he had a 58-yarder.
Yeah, 57 yards was that first field goal.
And it kind of, our seats were super high. We had the nosebleeds. We could have walked 2 feet and touched the back of the building. That's how high our seats were. But from that far up, it's a long field goal, but unless you kind of do the math in your head, they don't, I'm sure they list it out somewhere on the boards, but they don't really do a good job of telling you, like, and Reichert attempting a blah, blah, blah field goal. It didn't feel as long, but then you look it up after, it's like, geez, that was almost 60-yard field goal. That's crazy.
Well, and then we all heard in the post-game interview that Kevin O'Connell considered putting him out there for a 68-yarder or something there at the end of the game. They went up and spiked the ball, and they unfortunately had that illegal formation penalty called, which backed them up 5 yards, which didn't make sense to me. One, I don't think that was a penalty, and number two, it doesn't make any sense to me why they would let the offending team have one more play. Like,
yeah, there's precedent for that, and I didn't know until seeing Twitter afterwards. It's happened before that it's something about if it's a spiked play where it's a specific spike ball, and there's the illegal formation or whatever, I guess a game can't end on a penalty. It can't end on an accepted penalty, and the Lions obviously accepted the penalty. Usually when there's something like that, there's like a 10-second runoff, but there's some weird thing about, again, can't end on a penalty, and if it's a spiked ball play, then you get one untimed play. I don't know. I won't pretend to be smarter than
it was just really weird.
Bear.
And for like a split second there, it was like, oh my gosh, this could happen. And then Sam Darnold got sacked and it was over.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what I would have thought. I can't even imagine, and it's worthless to even think about anyways, but if they hadn't gotten that penalty, if the spike was perfect and they walked out with that field goal unit. Do you remember, this was a couple years ago, 2022, you and I attended the Vikings-Bears game in Soldier Field towards the end of the year. I think it was the last game of the year.
Yep.
At the end of the first half, and I know they practiced this situation because we witnessed it. It was KOC's first year. At the end of the first half, clock was ticking down. KOC had, go figure, burned all his timeouts. And the Vikings were somewhat in field goal range. With a few seconds left, they tried to sprint off the field goal team. They got everything down, and I don't remember if the play went off. They kicked the field goal before time expired and missed it, or if they just didn't, if they were 1 second too late to getting the ball snapped. But I know KOC practices getting that field goal unit
Get them out
real
there,
quick.
get set and go.
Yep. So I'm not shocked about that, but man, for what was it, a 68-yard attempt, if not for that penalty? I mean, what else are you going to do? Try to throw a bomb for 68 yards?
I think had that scenario played out, I'm pretty sure Dan Campbell had 1 timeout left, maybe 2. I can't remember. I think he had 1.
I don't remember.
You'd have to go back and watch.
I think they burned them all to set up their game-winning field goal.
Oh, that could be. Anyways, I think if Dan Campbell had a timeout, he probably would have iced him.
Oh, yeah.
Just to, make him think about it a little more. Like, you're sure you want to attempt this 68-yarder and set the league record?
Yeah. I don't think there's any question, though. Not that we've ever seen it or maybe even will ever see it. But I think Will Reichard, if you told him to go attempt a 65-yarder, I think he's, with the right conditions, he's got the leg for it.
Oh, for sure.
If you told him to attempt a 70-yarder, I feel like with the perfect conditions, maybe you'd need a nice breeze on your back. Maybe he could do it. I think most NFL kickers could, with the perfect conditions, hit 50, 60, 70-yard field goals with the perfect conditions. But I don't know. I'd like to see it sometime. Maybe not on a game-winning attempt. That'd be too nerve-wracking. But that would have been crazy to see. I told you earlier.
Could you imagine
if they had attempted it and made it? It would have been Favre to Lewis level of
pandemonium,
insane nuts, just going crazy. The half the ceiling would have blown off because it's glass. It would have been insane. Because everybody else, like before they announced one more untimed play, they were already starting to leave. Because the Vikings, it would literally need a miracle to happen for the Vikings to win at that point. But I don't know. All that to say, it was an exciting game to attend, and I wish I wasn't a Vikings fan because I would have had a lot more fun at that game. But it was still fun either way.
All right. Well, let's continue our kind of mini segment here as we talk about the games that have happened. Roses and Thorns. What's your rose? What's your thorn from the game?
Yeah, so I kind of wrote a few down. I figured we could talk about these together. I think a good rose. We haven't seen it since week 1, and this is kind of, a negative out of a positive. The Vikings, until this game against the Lions, hadn't trailed in a game since, a few minutes into the first week 1 game. Yeah. And I think Bill Belichick said it a handful of weeks ago, like, we'll really know about this Vikings team when they have to come back, when they've been down by a touchdown or 2 or scores or whatever, and they have to try to come back. And I mean, against a really good team, yes, they lost. And there are no moral victories for the Skol hop. We're not saying, we're actually still perfect and still great. They definitely should have won it. They got robbed. No, we're not saying that. But we did see a comeback, and they had a lead, if not for a couple of plays, could have won the game after being down by more than 2 scores.
There's that one... I think Darnold rolled out to his right, and he had Addison on a short route, and he had Justin Jefferson behind him. And I think he was just hoping he could loft it up and put it where only Justin Jefferson could get it between Jefferson and the boundary, and he just overshot him by just a little bit. Mm-hmm. If that's a completed catch, I think that's the ball game right there.
Are you talking about that 3rd and 4 on the last drive? Yeah.
That's exactly
he had 2 receivers right there, and I think I've seen on Twitter that maybe KOC alluded to the idea that Addison didn't run the exact right route, but I mean, oh well, he runs it right 9 times out of 10 anyways, so you can't really fault him for that. Yeah, that play, I feel like with an Aaron Jones, you try to run it, because if you don't get it, you're still bleeding more clock. I don't know. We can nitpick 1 or 2 plays, but yeah, that 3rd and 4, that was one of the pivotal plays that unsuccessful 2-point conversion after the Ivan Pace scoop and score that they didn't get. Not that it was easy, it would have been easy, but they didn't convert that. That was a pivotal play. The whole final defensive drive where they let the Lions get that game-winning field goal. Those are a few pivotal plays, but I mean, good games like this do come down to a couple plays. So it was just 2 good teams, and the Lions were the better team yesterday.
Yeah, I think a rose for me is the fact that there really were no major injuries. The Vikings are already kind of banged up. Blake Cashman probably out again this next week against the Rams with turf toe. It's not looking good for him. I don't think they practiced today, Monday.
No, but they put out like a assumed injury report. Yeah.
So it's not looking good for him, but Aaron Jones, who's dealing with his hamstring, and a couple other guys too, are just kind of banged up, and it's getting to that point in the season where those little things are starting to pile up a little bit, and they're affecting guys. And so I think that's the good news, is we kept it close, and nobody got carted off. Nobody was, seriously hurt for the Vikings, and got a short week this week, so that could be the storyline Thursday night, is so and so's hurt. Maybe, hopefully not, but that could be the reality on Thursday. But then they have the mini bye week too, with a longer recovery time, and all things to say, I think things are trending upwards for the Vikings, even with a loss. Yeah. And that's a rose for sure.
Yeah. I think another rose, Will Reichard. Oh my goodness. When's the last time we were almost not nervous at all? Like, we were totally confident in our kicker.
It's a foreign concept for Vikings fans.
Like, I feel like the first year or two of Blair Walsh's career, until that, the meme of the 27-yard field goal miss, up until that point, Blair Walsh seemed like an automatic guy. Yep. And so far, yes, it's only been 6 games now. Will Reichard, perfect. I mean, the only mess up we've seen of his might not even be his fault, and it was that blocked field goal attempt maybe in the first game of the preseason. I forget. That might have been his first field goal attempt as an NFL player. Yes, it was in the preseason, so it doesn't really count. But Will Reichard, he's looking good, and even the fact that we were talking about, it would have been kind of cool to see a 68-yard attempt. Like, yeah, he probably would have missed it. Most people in the world would have missed that. But he might have made it. You never know. Like,
never know.
Just to be able to say, like, it's not an automatic miss, like, that's kind of fun to talk about. We're watching Monday Night Football right now. The Ravens, for the last, however many handful of years, have had Justin Tucker. They haven't had to worry about their kicker forever. Mm-hmm. He's won how many games? He's so automatic. And Will Reichard is not Justin Tucker yet, but he's still perfect. Like, that's awesome.
Yep. Are you ready to panic yet about this Vikings team? Are you going to push the panic button after one loss?
I think, one, absolutely not yet. But what I hope this isn't is, I hope at the end of the season, when we look back on the season at the 2024-25 Vikings, the story of it, I hope this isn't the first sentence of where it went wrong. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that they fought back, and they, even for all the faults that we could point out, looked good against an elite team in the NFL. I think we're not delusional. We can say the Lions are one of the NFL's elite teams right now. They're playing great. They've got great coaching. Jared Goff, I mean, there were basically MVP chants from the few drunk Lions fans in the stadium for Jared Goff.
He looked it. I mean, I would have voted for him. I mean, holy cow. He was perfect until the fourth quarter. Again,
he started 12 for 12.
Yeah. And he's already had a perfect game this year where he hasn't missed a pass. Mm-hmm. Like, he looked in control. He looked really, really good. He's obviously on the same page with Ben Johnson, and it's it's difficult to defend.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Very difficult to defend.
And this makes me excited, not dreading, that Week 18 game against the Lions in their house. I know it would be tough. It's going to be a tough game. And we see it every year. A team will look one way, the first half of the season, and then they'll kind of morph, and you figure out who they really are by the end of the season. They could be two completely different teams by the end of the season. And who knows, that Week 18 game for either of these teams, it's not shaking out this way, but for either of these teams, they could be in a point where they're resting starters. Mm-hmm. One or both of these teams could be deciding, like, okay, our seed, whether it's 1, 2, 3, whatever, our seed is locked up and there's nothing to play good for, bad for, whatever. Let's just rest some starters. That Week 18 game may not matter, or it might be the most anticipated game, kind of like this one was yesterday.
Honestly, I mean, it could come down to the division. It could come down to getting a higher seed. I think there will be a lot at stake in that game. I'm predicting that, and not rest the starters, let's just get into the playoffs kind of game for that. But
are you panicking?
I'm not panicking. No, I don't think one loss after you started 5-0 is a reason to panic. Now, the Vikings went 5-0, 2016,
yeah.
And then they came out of the bye week. They had the exact same bye week, week 6, and they won 3 games the rest of the season.
Yep.
Finished 8-8. It was pretty ugly. I don't think that's where the Vikings are trending. I think they've proven that they have a phenomenal defense that they are relying on. That is the cornerstone of this team. That is the bedrock, the foundation of this team. And the offense has proven that it has the ability to score and to make big plays. You have the league's greatest wide receiver, Justin Jefferson. You have a really good wide receiver too, in Jordan Addison. He's been relatively quiet this year.
That deep ball to Addison.
That was beautiful.
I feel like I felt really dumb for a tenth of a second, because here I am in the 300s, the nosiest of nosebleeds, and that deep ball catch to Addison, that play, they hiked the ball, and I could see it. I saw Addison streaking forward, and I'm not saying I'm an elite football mind. I'm not trying to toot my own horn by any means, but I saw it. And once I saw Addison kind of open up, I looked back and I saw Darnold do his hop like he's about to throw. And I just started yelling. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something like, "He's got him! He's got him!" And everybody else was still like silent, like, what's going on? What's going on? And here I am screaming as he's letting the ball loose. Nobody else sees Addison. And then Addison makes a freaking great catch. Yeah, he with a better throw, maybe he could have scored, because he had a step on the cornerback, but it was a little bit behind him. Addison made a great catch, and I'm the first one yelling and screaming because I saw Addison open up right away, and I almost felt dumb because I could have been yelling, "He's got him!" and then an incomplete pass, and I'd be like, "Sorry guys, don't look at me."
I don't know anything.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm not on a podcast.
I was wearing that shirt you're wearing right now.
Yeah, you were. You were repping.
Yep.
No, but you've got a great supporting cast on offense, and Sam Darnold can make throws like that, right? Like, we've seen him do it a few times now, and I think part of it is Kevin O'Connell calling the right play, putting those guys in the right position to make those big plays. And this is not a bad Vikings offense. They're a generational defense.
Oh yeah, except for against Ben Johnson.
Except for against the Lions, apparently. But man, this defense is still incredible, and I think will continue to play incredible. I think they're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder on Thursday night. I think they're going to want to hit some guys in the mouth on Thursday night. That'll be a good game to watch. And they'll go into that game knowing that they've got an extended week, the mini bye week after the Thursday night game, to rest up, recover. So I expect them to be flying around and hitting guys hard, but I'm not hitting the panic button yet. Nope. Outstanding defense, pretty good offense. We've got a really good kicker that we can rely on. There's really not a whole lot to complain about, even in this loss. Yes, these mid-game slumps are frustrating as all get out. The clock management, timeout management by KOC, I think needs to be improved. I think he needs to go back and analyze those situations and why he took those timeouts and, how he can better utilize his aspects of the game. But
absolutely.
All in all, I'm not worried.
Yeah. As of right now, I think the panic meter is still pretty low. We're not even towards the middle of that yet. I don't think we have to quite jump ahead to the Rams game yet. But you mentioned like they've got a chip on their shoulders. This Flores defense, these coaches, all these players kind of have a chip on their shoulders. I feel like one thing I've heard from players, coaches, after a big loss like this, of course, every year after like the Super Bowl, the losing team, the first thing these players say is something to the tune of like, I just want to get right back out there tomorrow. I need to play again tomorrow. Let's go. I need to get this lost taste out of my mouth. And after your first loss, obviously this is the biggest loss so far this season. This is the worst the team has felt so far this season. How awesome is it to feel like, all right, let's go right back out there. We only got a couple of days until our next game. Let's just go fix it. Let's get right and feel better about ourselves so we only have to think about this loss for another day or two. And I think the Rams, no offense to the Rams, they could easily beat the Vikings. They're a good team. But so far, they're not so great. And I think the Rams are one of the best teams you can look ahead to be like, all right, let's go beat up. I don't know if I want to do this because TikTok kind of ripped us apart, but you know what? I'm going to say it. I don't think the Vikings really struggle against the Rams.
Way to take my line.
your lines, your line word for word, except for the team. But yeah, I think it's really a good thing. You mentioned injuries, but there's not a ton of like devastating injuries, just some bang up stuff. I think the Vikings, the best thing for them right now is to turn around and get right back on the field and play a football game and get another win.
You said a very like cliche phrase that people like us use all the time. I think coaches, players, even like the analysts use it all the time. Oh, they're a good team. They're a good team. Yeah, I would agree with that to some extent, but like I also agree with you that of all the teams for the Vikings to play on Thursday night, that's a pretty darn good team for the Vikings to go up against, to get that bad taste out of their mouth and to see what can happen. The last time the Vikings played on the West Coast, correct me if I'm wrong, they played in Vegas. And they turned that place into US Bank West.
And they won by 3 points.
And
they scored the only 3 points in the game. That was one of our last live streams.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, Skol Hop will be planning on live streaming during that Thursday night football game. So if you're interested in that and you're listening before Thursday night football kicks off, check us out. We'll post it on the socials, but we'll probably be on YouTube.
Yep, probably on YouTube for sure. Maybe somewhere else. Yeah. We're not quite sure yet, but for
definitely
sure on
YouTube, and then you can hear about anywhere else too. So
we'll be sitting right here, and we'll have the game on. We got a TV over there, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Our first live stream of the year. All right, let's talk about Thorns really quick from the game, and then let's hand out some game balls, and then we'll look ahead to that Rams game.
Yeah. So I guess my first thorn is, we both said it a handful of times, the Lions seem to have figured Flores out. Maybe it's scheme, maybe it's personnel, maybe it's everything. I don't know. Maybe the Lions just have the perfect personnel that everybody knows about how to beat Flores. It's just nobody has the personnel other than the Lions. I'm guessing here. I don't know. I'm not an elite football coaching mind, but I think it's plain to see the Lions have Flores figured out. The Vikings version of Flores. I don't know about his other time in the league. So that's my biggest thorn is, man, he's got to figure himself out against the Lions if the Vikings want to beat. Because right now it's shaken out to be a Lions-Vikings division, even though the other two teams are pretty good too.
Yeah. Oh man, it's the toughest division in football for sure. I think a thorn for me is, we've already talked about it, the clock management, the timeout management from KOC, and just offensively, there seemed to be, after those first 10 points, there seemed to be this spark in the offense. They seemed to, and they've done this all season, they get up by a decent amount, and then they just kind of coast. And Aaron Jones wasn't 100%, so you can't really rely on him to, do like... That was a good pour.
Yeah, but it wasn't that great of a pour. It was a loud pour. I totally derailed you there. Aaron Jones.
It's okay. It was a little alarming, but
Yeah, I'm sorry.
you probably won't hear that on the podcast.
Maybe. I hope
not on the microphones. It's all right. But Aaron Jones wasn't fully healthy, so you can't really lean on the run game as much.
He still had over 100 yards between rushing and receiving. He had like 93 rushing yards and a touchdown.
He had a lot of all-purpose yards, but I feel like a lot of those yards came at the end of the game. I think his first touchdown was, 37 yards?
Something like that. And then he's kind of quiet after that.
And he was pretty quiet.
About half of his total, or a third of his total.
Yeah, and then they needed him at the end of the game too. So I don't know. We've got to figure out these mid-game slumps. We've got to figure out this. We lull ourselves to sleep on offense. And I think that comes down to Kevin O'Connell, figuring that out, figuring out how to open up the playbook, figuring out how to feed Sam Darnold the right plays. There were times where it seemed like those two just weren't on the same page. And I think that's a Kevin O'Connell thing too. I think he's really good at working with inexperienced guys and helping them feel comfortable for a while. But once they get comfortable with him, it's a different story. And Kirk Cousins was a different story, I think, because he's a more experienced quarterback. He's played in many different systems. And I think Kevin O'Connell had a lot of trust in Kirk. Like, hey, if you see something, change it. I trust you.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's that same amount of trust. And I also don't know that Sam Darnold has that same amount of football acumen to do the Kirk Cousins thing, nor do I want him to play like Kirk Cousins because those games are frustrating to watch too. Yeah. And they typically come down to the wire like this one did.
It felt like a Kirk Cousins game this week.
Yes, it did.
And I don't mean that as a total negative. It just, like I said a few weeks ago, it feels like every time Kirk does something, it's because he just tried so hard. So, yeah, maybe he'll throw a 50-yard touchdown, but man, it feels like he tried so hard to do it. Whereas, like Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, sometimes it's like they just flick the wrist and it's like, oh, yeah, I guess another 50-yard touchdown, you know. But anyways.
Yeah, I think coaching can improve. And Brian Flores, right? We've already mentioned him too. He's got to figure it out against the Lions. And that Week 18 game is going to be the proof in the pudding for this Vikings team. If they are for real, that's when they'll have to prove it. And everything will be on the line, I think, at that point.
And not that I'm saying you're forgetting about the other teams in the North, but we can't forget about the Packers and the Bears too. Because, yeah, the Vikings have played the Packers once, but they just ended up on the other side of what they just did with the Lions. They just ended up winning against the Packers. The Packers are a good team, and Caleb Williams is starting to figure things out. Yeah, the Bears were on a bye week this week, but, I mean, this division is going to be tough, and I don't see that really changing. It's just the Vikings can't really coast. They've got a quote-unquote soft schedule looking ahead, but you still can't coast. You can't have half your season be trap games. You got to put the pedal to the metal, and to wrap it all up, to lead back to your initial point, get rid of these slumps.
Yes.
Get rid of these. I don't know. You hear the joke about like, oh, the only thing that survived the plane crash was the black box. So why don't they make the whole plane out of the black box? Then everything would survive. It seems like the Vikings offense, the best part of it every game seems to be that scripted opening drive or 2 or 15 plays, however much. So why don't they script the whole game? Like, I don't know what the answer is. For all I know, they do. For all I know, they have a general script of the game, and they just kind of go off up or down from that script. I'm not a coach. I'll never pretend to be, but they do need to figure it out and get rid of this slump.
For sure. All right, let's hand out some game balls really quick. Offense, defense, special teams. So
I took all the easy ones because I went first in our little outline here. Offense, my game ball is Aaron Jones. He had like 93 rushing yards, 20, 30-ish receiving yards. First touchdown, at least rushing touchdown, since week 1, I believe. And finally got to do the bank vault. You texted me as that happened.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't see it because, again, I was arguing with that very nice lady who would have let me sit in the seats that I was stealing from her and her friends, but ultimately I had to move. I just knew that the Vikings had scored. But Aaron Jones, all of that, he's still not 100%. I think it ultimately was a hamstring injury. Why do I feel like I'm saying that word right? Hamstring? That's how we say it, right?
It's because you're drinking beer through a silly straw.
It's really going in my head, guys.
It's hitting you. It's hitting you hard.
But I'm impressed by him. We did. I think I saw Dustin Baker tweet out. Somebody on Twitter tweeted out that Jones had about a 70% snap rate, which has been the case when he's healthy this season. So he didn't have less snaps this game than he did, I guess the Lennon game, they pulled him out pretty early, but he played as much as he has the whole game, and he's injured. So he's got my offensive game ball for his good performance.
Yeah, I'm going to give mine to Justin Jefferson. He's another easy one to give a game ball to. He had a touchdown. He had, 80-something yards, 83 yards, 81 yards. Looked really good. He's, I think, more deserving of a game ball, not for his on-field stats, but just for the role that he's played. He's not the get the ball to me, I'm the guy, I'm the only important person on the team type of player. He is a team player. He's out there blocking on the run plays. He's out there running great routes. He's out there trying to get open as much as he possibly can. And we're not hearing about, his little tirades or rants. I mean, if he's complaining at all, it's not making it out to the media. And I don't think he's really complaining. I think he's comfortable knowing that this is a process. This takes time, and he'll get his shot to shine. Yeah. And he has shined. He had a touchdown, of course, and I thought looked pretty good. But the game ball to him is more so just for being an awesome teammate and being an awesome guy to have on the team. He's absolutely the right guy for this organization, and he's not Devontae Adams, who's complaining left and right and wanting to get traded, and then goes to New York and lays an egg in his first game with that. Like, we're not dealing with that, right?
I don't want to derail, but I saw a video that was like every highlight from Devontae Adams' debut in New York, and it was like him getting announced and running onto the field, and like at one point he was like talking to Aaron Rodgers on the sideline. That was another highlight, and then immediately it cut to him making a tackle. So I don't know if there was an interception. I didn't watch the game. I don't know if there was an interception. He made a tackle, but that was the only football play. That was the highlight.
That's
of
hilarious.
Game. It was funny.
That is funny. But anyways, I think Justin Jefferson is not that, and he gets my offensive game ball.
I think, and we could derail and have multiple episodes just talking about Justin Jefferson, the person, the football player, the Viking. I think he's always been the high point. He was the good rookie, he said all the right things and waited his turn. He was behind Olabisi Johnson on the depth chart his first few games. Remember, it was like 2 or 3 games his rookie year before I think Zimmer finally let him loose a little bit. But he's always said the right things, done the right things, even amidst contract negotiations. And I think the best way to describe Justin Jefferson is, so far, once they put that C on his chest, he has taken that to heart, and he is a captain. If you want to see it like just play out, you could probably find the YouTube video of the preseason game where he's on the radio as he's on the sidelines for like most of the third quarter of a preseason game. The first one, actually, with Paul Allen during the game call.
That was cool.
And he does a really good job with Paul Allen talking to him, but he also is watching the game and hyping up his teammates and going nuts, and he's the ultimate teammate, the ultimate captain. Evan is going crazy because apparently he has Derrick Henry on his fantasy football team.
Yes, I do. I really wanted him to score a touchdown there. It was close. That was a huge run. He went, 70, 80 yards
Something
there?
like that. I don't know.
That was massive.
Yeah. This just in, Derrick Henry, good football player.
What? Breaking news here on the Skol Hop.
He wears purple, but he doesn't wear the good version of purple. But for Evan on his fantasy team, he does.
We'd take him in Minnesota.
Yeah, this year. I mean, the running back position's kind of taking a turn. A whole nother episode that we could tangent into all that to say, Justin Jefferson, good guy, good captain, good Viking.
Defensive game ball.
Yes, finally. Okay, Ivan Pace Jr.
Yes.
Defense, yeah, they let the Lions score 31 points. It was probably their worst game of the season statistically, performance-wise, but, I mean, Jonathan Grenard still played okay. Ivan Pace Jr., just he had the highlight defensive play, that scoop and score. And, man, that stadium blew up. I wasn't there for the Minneapolis Miracle, obviously. I don't have $1 trillion to buy a playoff ticket, but I can't imagine that stadium was too much quieter during Ivan Pace picking up that fumble and running it in. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. So he gets my defensive game ball.
My defensive game ball goes to the guy that forced that fumble. That would be Josh Metellus. And if you're looking at the stat line, Ivan Pace led the team in tackles with 10.
Yep.
Josh Metellus right behind him with 8. Mm-hmm. So those two guys were flying around, and they were making plays. And it was good to see Ivan Pace really have a good game. Yeah. He's been relatively quiet. I know he was injured at the beginning of the season, right?
Well, he didn't play last week. I think that's the only game he's missed.
Okay. Well, anyways, he's been relatively quiet, I think, in the first handful of games here. And now to see him really come out, and that scoop and score was like the cherry on top for sure. But
I say last week. They were on bye last week. It was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago against the Jets. Metellus, though, man, he was the Swiss Army knife last year. We talked about him a lot last season. Just he plays everywhere. He can play every position, and I think Brian Flores loves that about him. He just, you want to be an edge rusher? Let's do it. You want to sit back and be the eyes on the quarterback? Let's do it. You drop you into coverage on a receiver? Let's do it. Like, he can do it all, and he proved that with that play. They were going after the ball. That defense was going at any time.
Almost to a fault.
Gibbs or Montgomery had the ball. They were just going after it, trying to punch it out. It was kind of fun to watch on TV. But, yeah, Metellus gets my defensive game ball.
That's interesting, too, because Blake Cashman, he missed the game. I think he's got, a turf toe issue, and he might miss this Thursday night game, too. But with him out, I think they initially tried to fill in Dallas Turner to fill that spot with Cashman out. But quickly, I think by the end of the game, Josh Metellus had played most of the Cashman role throughout the game, which is crazy because I think on the stat sheet, Metellus is a safety, and he ended up playing most of the game as an inside linebacker, which you love to see it when guys can be like that. I mean, he obviously did it last year too. You played defensive lineman a couple of times. So
that's a really interesting point. And I think some Vikings fans out there are starting to kind of throw their hands up at Dallas Turner a little bit. Like, what the heck? We got this guy super high. He was supposed to be really good. Are you ready to move on from Dallas Turner?
No. He's a rookie, 6 games in. He's already shown flashes, and I think this Flores defense, it's really good for a reason, because it's complex, and I mean, it can be difficult to learn. And we talk about it. I was on last week with Dustin Baker on Vikes Now. Go check that out too. Vikes Now, we talked about trades and the Vikings situation right before the Lions game, but we did kind of talk about players on the Vikings roster that could be traded away. And I mentioned Pat Jones, who, it's not a unique take. Most people out there, if you have to come up with a Viking that they could get something from, Pat Jones is one of the highest on the list, because that position group with Pat Jones, Jonathan Grenard, Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner, it's a crowded group.
So deep.
Yeah, so I think if not for that depth in that group, we'd see more of Dallas Turner. Not saying he's super good and he's just sitting on the field because he's still a rookie, or sitting on the sideline because he's still a rookie. I think he's just learning, and he's got all the tools in the world. I'm not ready to move on from him yet. What about you?
I like him. I want him to stay. I think it's good for him to sit behind some of these he's the younger guy, sit behind some of these older guys, learn from him. Harrison Smith, man, what a mentor to sit behind on defense, even though they don't play the same position. And even some of these other guys, Metellus, Cashman, Van Ginkel, all the names you've already listed. I don't need to relist them. Yes, sit behind them, learn, get as much as you can from them, and work in this system. Work in this Brian Flores aggressive. I'm going to put you everywhere on the field, and you're going to have to be ready to go, and you're going to have to, figure it out. I like it, and I don't think they picked him too high. I think they picked him in the right spot. I'm glad they got him, and boy, he could really turn into something special in the future. So.
I'm excited for him. Not even just the future version of him. I'm just excited for him now. He will be, and already kind of is, a good and will be a great Viking. All right. Special teams.
Special teams.
Who's your game ball for special teams?
I'm just going to go. You stole the easy one.
But we've done this before. We don't have to pick different guys. If there's a clear-cut guy.
So I picked a different guy because I felt like this was his best game so far. And I feel like he's deserving of a game ball because for a while we were kind of low on Ryan Wright.
Yeah. Okay.
And he had some good punts.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, he had to punt.
Unfortunately, yeah. And I don't know. It's not really a cop out, but it's kind of a like, well, I guess he's, whatever. We'll give it to him. I'll give it to Ryan Wright. He had multiple punts that went really far. I don't know the exact distances, but I think he averaged something like over 50 yards a punt or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but that sounds right.
I think he had arguably his best game, and he was a guy that we were like, at the beginning of the season, we're like, wow, maybe we need to have tryouts for a punter. Maybe we need to go hit free agency.
It was really just last season was a low point for him. I think the plus-size punter, which I say that endearingly because I'm a plus-size podcaster, but I think he had a pretty rough 2023 season, as evidenced by immediately signing a free agent in the offseason to compete with him. And credit to him, he won the job and he's looked decent. I don't know where he stacks up league-wide, but we haven't been complaining about him too much.
He had 3 punts for 145 yards, 48.3 average, one inside the 20, and a long of 60. So one of his punts went a ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Ryan Wright's your special teams game ball. I think we can both agree Will Reichard. For me, until he misses a kick, I mean, as long as he gets in a game and attempts a kick and is perfect, which he has been for 6 weeks so far, more than that if you count preseason, he's going to get my special teams game ball. And part of me wishes we would have gotten that wish of a 68-yard field goal attempt that probably wouldn't have gone through because if it was that easy, everybody would do it. But man, that would have been insane. But yeah, either way, he's still my game ball winner for the special teams.
Yeah, definitely deserving for sure. And be interesting if they actually put him out there for something that long.
Someday, I mean, if he's good enough, kickers can play a long time. He might get a chance.
Yeah. All right. Well, on a short week, the Vikings are traveling to Los Angeles, playing the Rams on Thursday Night Football. Mm-hmm. What are you looking forward to most about that game?
Just getting on the field, not me getting on the field, seeing my team get on the field, and hopefully get this losing taste out of your mouth. One final point on the Lions game. I think it was Dustin Baker that tweeted out. The Vikings offense had a 7.3 yards per play average and lost the game. That tells you the offense is doing okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, they scored 29 points. That's still a decent amount of points, not to put the whole loss on the defense. But anyways, offense is doing good. This is not time to hit the panic button. For Thursday Night Football, I'm excited. The Vikings are looking into what seems to be a softer period of their schedule. The rest of the NFC North already had their soft period. Now they're running into their tougher period. I think the Vikings rattle off a couple more wins here in the next few weeks. I think they get right, and it sucks that the first loss was against a division foe that is probably going to end up making the rest of the season pretty tough for you. But, man, what better way to look up and see the next handful of games in front of you?
Yeah, for sure. News, I think, recently, within the last couple of days, Cooper Kupp looks like he's going to come back.
So, yep, sounds like he'll make his debut. Did he play the first week? I think he played in the first week and got injured.
That could be right. Anyways, are you at all worried about Cooper Kupp making his return?
I mean, Cooper Kupp's a really good football player. Really good football player. He played the Justin Jefferson role in the Vikings' current offense with KOC. So, and that was the year they went and won the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford, yeah, he's older, but he's a really good quarterback. His stats aren't great so far this year, but he's still a really good quarterback. And Sean McVay, I think the Rams are just all around a really good team, and to get an elite player like that back, presumably fully healthy, yeah, I think that's something to keep an eye on. Outside of this Lions game, the Vikings defense has held everybody, aside from the Packers too. They did have their comeback against the Vikings, but this Vikings defense has done pretty good, so I still think the Vikings do well against Cooper Kupp and really the Rams as a whole. But yeah, it's definitely something to look at.
Something I saw on Twitter, and I would not be able to go back and give credit to whoever put this out there. So if you're out there, let us know, because you deserve credit for this. But there was a really insightful tweet out there about Blake Cashman's absence against the Lions, and how in a scheme like Flores, Cashman fills some voids and seems to kind of shrink the field a little bit for the opposing offense. And I felt like the Lions just had they just could do no wrong. Like they could, that Jahmyr Gibbs run that you missed, I think it was pretty early on in the game. Just the field opened up for him and he was gone. And then later on in the game, it wasn't those big chunk plays, but it was just those little dink and dunks, those crossing routes over the middle. And they were very content to get 7, 8, 9, 10 yards over the middle to Amon-Ra St. Brown and just keep moving the ball, getting first downs. And you miss a guy like that on the inside who can be disruptive, who can drop into coverage when needed, but can also just lay a big hit on a guy and maybe jar the ball loose, or intercept the ball. Like there's a lot of possibilities there. So I think missing Cashman was huge. I don't know if he'll be back for this Rams game, but
sounds like, at least the way Twitter sounded today, that he might not be back. It doesn't sound like he'll be out forever, but he probably won't be back this week. So just for me, we should probably just assume he won't be back.
Yeah, and that's a little concerning. Not super concerning, but a little concerning for the Vikings D, that they're going to have to figure something out. They're going to have to put somebody in his role, or figure out a way to keep the field restricted for Matt Stafford and the opposing offense.
Yeah. To go back to the Lions game for a second, it felt like every first down, they just rushed the ball for 5 or 6 yards, which, I mean, when you see a first down rush for 4, 5, 6 yards, yeah, either way, if you're a Lions fan or a Vikings fan, you're thinking okay, all right. I mean, not a huge deal, but holy cow, can you imagine if every second down you had was 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5? That just makes that first down so much easier. And who knows, maybe having Cashman in there, not to make excuses, but maybe having Cashman in there, they would have only done that half the time. And most of if you have a 2nd and 8, that's way different than 2nd and 4. The whole offense changes a little bit for that. So it'll be great when Cashman does come back. Unfortunately, it sounds like we shouldn't be looking for him to come back in LA this week.
For sure. All right, keys to victory.
I'll keep saying, just like I say, Will Reichard, he'll get my special teams game ball until he misses a kick. I'll say this is a key to victory every week until they figure it out. Stop that slump. Stop the mid-game slump. This week against the Lions looked a little different because it seemed like it was more so the Lions holding the Vikings because they were down that they started slumping. But the rest of the season, it's been, okay, they gotten up to a big lead and just let their foot off the gas. Quit that. Punch them in the face. Just stop coasting. And if you try to run the ball to run the clock off and it's not working, forget about it. Do what works and be the better football team. Stop the slump. That's my biggest key to victory.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think they've got to figure out clock management, and they've got to figure out timeout management. I think this will be a good game for Kevin O'Connell to work on some of those things, because even if a mistake is made, it's not necessarily going to be it won't come with the same amount of pressure that the Lions game held. It is an NFC game, so you do want to win if
absolutely.
at all possible. But it doesn't carry the same divisional weight that the Lions, Packers, or Bears hold. And so, yeah, I think that's a key. You've got it here, and I agree with what you've written on our outline too. Those offensive penalties, those pre-snap penalties were so frustrating. They have to clean those up. They got to get better. Our offensive line, for the most part, has been pretty okay. Like, they haven't been amazing, but they haven't been terrible. I think Dalton Reisner coming back could be huge. And I think Ed Ingram could be finding himself on the bench here pretty soon. That'll be interesting to see. But yeah, they've got to figure out those pre-snap penalties. They just shot themselves in the foot with all of this stuff. And
there was a big hit on a defenseless receiver there in the Monday night game against the Ravens, the Bucks. There was no flag, so I guess it was okay, but Mayfield and Bowles are both looking for the flag. Everybody looks okay, but man, that was rough. Anyway, sorry, I totally
watch the
derailed you.
replay now.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't make the catch, comes down, and immediately, I guess it kind of looks clean. No helmets touch. It looks like a shoulder shot and not a head shot, but oof. Kyle Hamilton laid a lick. If he had touched that ball, he wasn't going to catch it. That was a football play. I think it was all clean though. It looked painful.
Well, all of that comes after a big turnover. Lamar Jackson threw it backwards to Zay Flowers, and it was incomplete. And Tampa Bay picked it up, and they're down on the Baltimore 20, about ready to score and go up by more than 24 points, which is crazy.
Initially, it looked like the Bucks had picked up that fumble and ran it all the way back for a touchdown, but I guess the recovering player had a knee down while he was being touched by the Ravens, so he was down.
We're just getting warmed up for live streaming on Thursday night when our favorite team plays.
Yeah, check us out Thursday. We'll probably start a few minutes before kickoff, but yeah, Vikings-Rams will be live streaming Thursday. Anyways, you kind of mentioned it. Dalton Reisner seems like he's ready to go and could be coming back against the Rams. Another guy that could be coming back is TJ Hawkinson. And before I saw a tweet earlier today, I thought the timeline for Hawkinson was he's either going to be back against the Rams or he's going to be on IR the rest of the year, because that's how his practice window worked out. But I guess his 3-week practice window, they don't have to declare TJ Hawkinson ready to go until the day after the Rams game. So theoretically, they could hold him out during the Rams game and still activate him the next week without losing him for the full season, which I hope that's not the case. One, I hope he's okay and he's healthy and he's ready to go. Two, I just want to see one of the better tight ends in the league back on the field from my favorite team. So we could see both Reisner and Hawkinson back on the field against the Rams. That would feel like a mid-season trade for two great players.
Yeah, that would be a big spark plug for this offense that has kind of seemed to, in the last 3 games, kind of settle down a little bit. They started off so hot.
Yeah,
everything looked so good. And then, against the Packers, the second half against the Packers was rough, and then they didn't look great in London against the Jets. They made it happen. They made it work, but it wasn't great. And now against the Lions, they started strong and kind of went to sleep there for a little bit, and then fought their way back from down by 11 to make it a close game, but couldn't finish it out. So, yeah, I agree with you. TJ and Dalton coming back could be a nice little shot in the arm for this Vikings offense that they might need.
Especially heading into a quote-unquote soft part of your schedule. That would be great to have one Pro Bowl level player and one, you could argue, Pro Bowl level player in Dalton Reisner at his highest point. But yeah, those they're really good. They're starting players in the NFL, and they will definitely help the Vikings no matter what.
What's your prediction for the game?
Oh, man. All right. I think the Vikings win. I think they get this loss taste out of their mouth. I think the Lions are a good team, and they fought them hard, and they still, they lost, but it was to a good team. I think the Rams' current team is not as good as the Lions, and I think the Vikings benefit from going to the West Coast, where it's like the clock is in your favor as far as your body clock. I think the Vikings win 35-21.
You've been picking the Vikings to win by a lot more than I would expect. I'm maybe a little more conservative in my score predictions.
Yeah. I was right last week, though.
You were right on the win, or
I was right that the Vikings would lose and that they would give up 31 points. I was wrong too hard on the Vikings. They proved me wrong a little bit, but I said the Vikings would only score 17 against the Lions. They scored 29. I'm saying the Vikings are going to score 35 against the Rams. And the Rams will only score 21.
I think it's going to be a lower scoring affair than that.
Okay. Hold on. Do you think the Vikings have any trouble against the Rams? Check out TikTok for why that's funny.
I want to be careful with my words.
Hey, you got us 45,000 views. So on a video that didn't involve a broken bone or a torn ACL or anything like that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's all you, man.
No, I'm going to say the Vikings win 21-10. I think it's a little bit lower scoring. I think the Vikings defense really, like I said, comes out with a chip on their shoulder. I think they're mad. I think they allow a touchdown and a field goal. That's it. And they just make life miserable for Matt Stafford and the rest of the Rams offense the rest of the night. And I think one of those 3 touchdowns that the Vikings score is a defensive touchdown.
Van Ginkel pick 6.
I'm not going to say it's Van Ginkel, but it's a pick 6. It's a scoop and score. It's something. It's a defensive touchdown. The Vikings offense puts up 2 other touchdowns, but I think we see a lot more Ryan Wright in this Thursday night game. A lot of punts. I think I don't know that we'll be able to rely on the run game as much because Aaron Jones is already not 100%, and he played hard against the Lions. I don't know that, and Ty Chandler hasn't really proven.
And we didn't even see Cam Akers on offense.
He returned a few kicks.
And he didn't look great because eventually they switched back to Powell and I forget. They had 2 returners back late in the game for kick returns. Anyways,
it would be interesting to see Cam Akers get some touches during an offensive drive.
Yeah, against the Rams, no less. The team that drafted him in the second round.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think it's a lower scoring affair. I think the Vikings offense still struggles a little bit. Not struggles to the point where they're turning the ball over a lot and they're blatantly the problem. I think they do enough to win the game. Yeah. The defense does enough to keep it not even a close game. And 21-10.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think 21-10 Vikings would be a turnoverless game.
Yep.
Or at least majorly winning the turnover battle, like +2. I think I'd love it. That would probably make for ultimately like a slower paced game if the Vikings only scored 3 touchdowns and the other team scores 1 and then a field goal. But I mean that's still a definition win. I wouldn't be mad about that at all. I mean, a 1-point win I wouldn't be mad about. I'd be excited, and I can't wait to live stream it with you on Thursday.
It's gonna be fun. Something about these score predictions that I always find funny is, yes, we did rack up quite a few views on TikTok.
Thank you, Lions fans, and I hope you loved watching us drink out of purple silly straws. It was a lot of fun. Purple punishments, and we'll double check and see what purple punishments we might have.
We can look at that in a minute, but the point I'm trying to make here is just simply that all of these media pundits that we watch week in and week out, they make predictions just like us, and none of them are ever 100% correct. Ever. They make score predictions just like we do, and none of them are right. I don't know that anybody that I've seen make a score prediction is 100% accurate. Sure, they might pick wins and losses, and those are a little easier to get right down the stretch, and you can oh yeah, I think this team's going to win or that team's going to lose, whatever. That makes sense. Yep. But all that to say, we're just a couple of dudes from Iowa, and we like drinking beer and talking about the Vikings. And you know what? We'll keep making these picks. We'll probably be wrong most of the time, and that's okay.
I don't know about most of the time.
I'm talking score picks specifically.
Sure.
You did pick the Lions score total, which that is impressive.
Yeah, but I can't hang my hat. I mean, it's still a loss. I don't really care. Ultimately, I don't really care about that. I'm trying to find our purple punishments, or really, it's
what we pick?
The schedule pick'em.
All right,
there
so
we go.
I found it. You pick a Rams win. I picked
a win against the Rams.
You pick a win against the Rams. Yes, I said that wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I pick a loss against the Rams.
Interesting.
So one of us will be spinning the wheel next week.
Oh man,
only one.
What do you think? There's a chance we could do a live. That's not as fun. I was gonna say a live purple punishments, to where we do it on the live stream. But then we don't get that in a regular episode. What if it's one of the ones that it's funny to see us with like a fake beard on or something? But we could spin the wheel live and then recap it and then suffer the punishment on the episode next Monday.
And then we have to live like the whole weekend knowing that we're going to have to record an episode.
I'm going to eat a spoonful of jalapenos.
I'm dreading that one. I hope that you have to land on that one, because you'll just be like,
I'd love to. I wouldn't even.
This is
I'll do it
caviar
right
for
now.
me.
Okay, so we picked opposite of each other. If the Vikings win, Evan will be suffering the wheel purple punishments next week. If the Vikings lose, then I will be suffering it. What have you thought about purple punishments this week? Not that bad, right?
Could be worse. I will say I'm going to go to the store and buy this beer so that I don't have to drink it out of a straw, because I feel like I didn't get the full effect.
It has affected our review, which I've had this without a silly straw, so I can definitely say Single Speed's Hold My Pretzel is up there with the best of Oktoberfest beers this time of year, regardless of Iowa beer or anywhere else. It's a solid Oktoberfest beer. It's really good, and I think that like blend of spices kind of puts it over the top for me.
Yeah, it's really good. It's got a good complex flavor. Again, not doing too much. I always say this about a beer. I don't like beers that do too much. It's easy drinking. I can taste the honey. I can taste the some of the maltiness that's in an Oktoberfest. It's really good. I would love to go outside and have a bonfire this weekend and drink a few of these.
Maybe we need to do that sometime soon.
We should.
Have all the families over. We got a good s'mores making bonfire. Yeah, let's do it.
It's still pretty warm around here too. It's been like
it hit like 80s today in Iowa, hot. Which is crazy.
It's hot today for the end of October.
Yep.
All right. Well, a lot to look forward to. We're going to be live streaming Thursday night, so that'll be fun. We'll be right back here in the spot. Join us for that. Drop some comments in there if there's anything you'd like to talk about. We'll be game for that. And I mean, we'll just look forward to sitting here for a couple hours and watching the Vikings hopefully notch another win.
Absolutely. I can also tell Evan has to pee pretty bad right now, so I'm going to belabor this a little bit longer. If you want to reach out to us,
we're the real purple punishment right there.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to reach out to us, send us an email. We are theskolhop@gmail.com. Just let us know if you think we're awesome, if we're idiots. If you want a sticker, we still have a few stickers laying around. Send us an email. Or if you're a brewery that wants to work with us, we'd welcome any Iowa brewery. We've even had a Minnesota brewery reach out to us about working with us. So that's pretty cool. Reach out to us. If not, email theskolhop@gmail.com. We're on every social. The Skol Hop, Facebook, Twitter or X, Instagram, TikTok. Definitely, hey, Vikings fans, go comment on our TikTok video with our recent one that starts off with Evan saying the Vikings won't have any trouble against the Lions, because Lions fans have overtaken that one. Thank you, Lions fans, for all the views and all the engagement on that. Anyways, also
cheers to you guys.
Yep, check out our website. If you see Evan's shirt, we've got 2 different designs and a bunch of different colors, and you can get that all on our website, theskolhop.com. Did I miss anything? All the socials, website, email, everything.
Check us out. Yeah. And if you just like good beer, we're good for some good beer.
Oh, yeah.
Check out our beer reviews. I think
We are on Untapped as well, and only the first like 5 or 6 episodes worth of beers are on there, but it's a personal I don't know, I'm losing words. It's a charge of mine. That's not the right word, but I will be going through our Untapped account and adding our review for all of the beers that we've had on the show. So if you want to kind of go back and scroll through, be our friend on Untapped too. I know a lot of people like that.
Yeah, it's a good beer network for sure. Well, I liked this beer. I wish I could have had it without the silly straw, but I'm also glad that this was our punishment today and not really anything else.
Yeah, Single Speed, Hold My Pretzel. Single Speed, you made a great fest beer. I'm sorry that we belittled it with a purple silly straw, but that's how the wheel spins sometimes. We'd love to drink it again. Single Speed, we'd love to work with you too. That'd be freaking awesome. We love all your beers anyways. I like it a lot. You like it a lot.
Great beer.
Is there anything else we can say?
Maybe one of our best episodes yet. And Skol.
Best episode yet. Evan, you can go to the bathroom now.
All right.
Skol.
Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop. Skol.